So first off, I was asked to come today to talk a little bit about assistive technology. So we only have about 20 minutes, and we're not going to cover everything that there is to know about assistive technology in 20 minutes. But the goal for today, kind of like what was just said, is, in the medical field, a lot of times when we talk about assistive technology, we really look at kind of those primary, more medical-based devices. So things like, wheelchairs, cochlear implants, more of the medical devices. And the field of assistive technology is huge. So I like really being able to meet with groups like this, especially just to kind of start the conversation about what other things are out there. Because sometimes we forget about some of the simple things that we can be using to make life just a little bit easier. So I did send a PDF of the presentation. So that will get probably emailed out, I'm guessing. But the link for it is here as well. If you're a computer person, you can go ahead and use this link to get to that. And this link is also on the PDF handouts. So you can use that to actually get right to these slides. So if you see something that's like, wow, this is really interesting, you can come back and look at it. So just a little bit about me to get started and kind of explain why I'm here today. So again, my name's Cassie Frost. The question about the dogs, just as an FYI, I do have 3 of them here. They're all snoring at the moment, but if the mail comes, you may hear it, just because they get really excited about that. So a little bit about me. I actually started off as a special education teacher. I worked in the school systems for about 15 years as a teacher, before moving into the area of assistive technology, primarily just because I found it really amazing, all of these technology things and what they could do for my students. So I work with a group called RESNA to be certified as an assistive technology professional. And then I also work with the Wisconsin Council for Exceptional Children, International Society for Technology and Education. I do still hold my educator license and work with the schools, and then work with the AT Council here in Wisconsin. So I'm kind of a little bit of everywhere. So if there's a question that comes up or an area of assistive technology you're a little bit interested in, don't ever hesitate to reach out, because while I might not know the answer, because I definitely don't know all of the answers, I do have a lot of people around me that I can reach out to, and usually we can find the answers. So during this short, 20 minutes-ish period of time, we're going to briefly talk about what assistive technology is and that definition. I'm going to give just a brief overview of how to find accessibility features in devices you're probably already using. I'm going to just kind of go over some quick AT wins, just some easy things that are out there that might be able to help you or someone you know and love, and then give you a few resources where you can go for more information. So first off, I like going over the definition of assistive technology because a couple of things happen here. If you don't have a lot of experience with assistive technology, one of 2 things seems to happen. The first off is, again, you hear about it maybe from a doctor, or you are looking into using a wheelchair or possibly a communication device, and you're aware that is considered assistive technology. The other thing that happens is people will see assistive technology and automatically assume that this is things like computers, right? Because it's got the word technology in it. So I like taking a couple of minutes to look a little bit more at exactly what it is. This is 2 reasons. One, because then the things that I'm showing you today, you can kind of identify as assistive technology and look for more resources. But 2, so you can also talk to the people that you're working with, talk to, the individuals that you're working with, talk with the medical providers that you're working with about assistive technology, because once you know what it is, you kind of can know the terminology around it to know what to ask for or ask about. So assistive technology is actually very well defined. So it is defined actually legally in the Assistance to Individuals with Disabilities Act. So this is back in 1988. And then also from an educational standpoint, it is involved in the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act of 2004. So assistive technology isn't something that kind of is just being made up or an idea that might help people out there. It's actually written into laws and policies to make sure that everybody's getting what they need. So I'm going to go to the IDEA definition of assistive technology, just because I think this is one of the ones that defines it most clearly. So they're going to define assistive technology two ways. So we're going to split it up to a device and a service. So an AT device is any item, piece of equipment, or product system. So basically it's telling us it can be anything. It can be acquired commercially off the shelf, so it's something you can buy. It can be something that you modify or customize or make yourself, that's used to increase, maintain, or improve the functional capabilities of somebody with a disability. So I like using this as an example when I'm first explaining assistive technology to somebody and they're like, I just not really sure. And a lot of times, one of the easier ways to kind of describe this, especially if you're talking with somebody that's wearing glasses, is for me, my glasses would be my assistive technology. Without them, I cannot see what it is I need to see. Nobody thinks of glasses that way because they're just kind of a mainstream thing that people use when they need them. But for me, my glasses would be assistive technology. If somebody uses a wheelchair, that would be assistive technology. If somebody requires a communication device or a certain reminder system or alarm system or certain types of prompts, those are all assistive technology. They're all things that you need in order to do the things you need to do. In addition to those devices, assistive technology also has kind of a services component. And that's basically where you are getting services from any person that has knowledge of assistive technology to help you use that assistive technology. So it could be to select it and kind of identify which assistive technology may help you the best, doing the purchasing or location of that assistive technology, and training or assistance in using the assistive technology. So you'll kind of see two areas here, and both of those fall under kind of the broad category of assistive technology. So we have a couple of questions here. These are things that come up pretty regularly when I'm talking to people. So I'm not going to put anybody on the spot and make you answer these questions out loud, but I do want you to think a little bit as I'm going through these. So are these things that either you have experienced, that you kind of maybe have a feeling about one way or the other, or you've talked with people about? So the first one is the statement that assistive technology can be considered cheating. So this one comes up a lot when we're talking about students in school settings or college settings or work settings. Kind of this idea that if you're using assistive technology, things are easier for you and it's cheating. And this is 100% false. So assistive technology, again, is just a tool that's being used by somebody with a disability to be able to do all of the things that they would be able to do without the disability or closer to it. It's not cheating. It's not giving them some unfair advantage. But unfortunately, sometimes this does come up in conversation. The second one is if an item, so like glasses, are considered AT for one person, it's AT or assistive technology for everyone. Again, this one is false. This comes from the idea that assistive technology is a specific item or a specific thing. And this one can be really interesting when we start having a conversation about what assistive technology is. Again, if we go back to the example of my glasses. So glasses as a whole are not necessarily assistive technology. There are people that wear glasses with non-prescription lenses because they like the way they look, right? I know people that wear glasses kind of as a fashion statement. They have non-prescription lenses and they wear them because they like the way they look. In that case, glasses aren't assistive technology. They're glasses. For somebody that needs them in order to see, they do become assistive technology. So that's kind of the fun thing about, AT when we're talking about it, is it's not like you go to an assistive technology store and there it all is, and you can pick up the items and anything that you're getting is assistive technology. Assistive technology is very specific to each person and how that tool helps them do the things that they need to do. So again, as we're talking about things today, there may be some things that I bring up, especially in that quick win section where you're like, that's not really assistive technology. That's just a thing that's kind of here. And you would be right until it crosses the line as it's a support that a person needs in order to do the things that they need to do. If they need that support in order to do all of the standard normal things that they want to do, then it becomes assistive technology for that person. That line really becomes mostly important when you are talking in an educational setting or when you're talking with some form of provider that perhaps is providing funding or procurement of that assistive technology. So for example, in a school, it's important to identify which things are assistive technology so that they can be written into plans like 504 plans, individualized education plans, so that we know that student always has access to that tool. In a work environment, it might be important for you to recognize what is assistive technology so you can advocate for that to your boss. Okay. And the last one, assistive technology only includes items that are high tech. We talked about this a little bit before. Absolutely, this is false. Things like glasses, and we'll talk about it a little bit later, even things like Post-it notes can be considered assistive technology if it's something that allows you to do the things that you need to do. So some just quick examples of assistive technology. Now, I will tell you, as I'm talking today, this is not an inclusive list of everything. This list could go on and on and on for hundreds of pages. The goal for today is not to give you an answer and description of every assistive technology that's out there. I've been doing this for many years, and I guarantee I do not know all of the assistive technology tools that are out there. The biggest goal when you're looking and learning about assistive technology is know that if you want to be able to do something that you currently can't do, there probably is an assistive technology or a way to combine assistive technologies to make that happen, and knowing who to reach out to and how to look into it. Okay? So I kind of always teach people the biggest thing about this is knowing that it's possible, knowing that it's out there. We can always look into things, look things up and learn new things, but you can't do that if you don't know that it's even a possibility. So as we're looking at assistive technology, starting off with some of those low-tech things. So using schedules. If you need a schedule to tell you where you need to be and when you need to be there, that can be assistive technology. I would probably argue that my calendar that prompts up and gives me a 10-minute warning before any of my meetings, probably assistive technology for executive functioning for me, because without that, I would probably miss 3/4 of my meetings. I really need that. Stop what you're doing. You have something coming up, reminder. Planners can be assistive technology, similar to schedules. Visual supports. If you struggle with memory and you have visuals sitting around, those can be assistive technology, and they can be a great assistive technology, right? Putting a note by the door of what you need to take with you when you go. Putting a note inside the cabinet of what medications you need to take that day. Those visual reminders of what we need to do, or the visual checklists or schedules or how-tos, can really help us, save our brain capacity for other things. Post-it notes are great. Raised line paper. So for people who struggle with writing, the actual physical act of writing and keeping it kind of within the lines, you can actually buy paper that has raised lines. So your pencil or pen hits those lines at the top and bottom to kind of keep your writing within those lines. Fidgets for individuals who have trouble staying focused without them can be assistive technology. Number lines when we're talking about math, checklists, and things like pencil grips. If you struggle with holding on to a pencil and you need a pencil grip to do that, that would be considered assistive technology. One of the other reasons that I do bring up these low-tech assistive technology tools here is because some of us kind of get in this habit of, as an adult, and somebody earlier mentioned adulting, right? We kind of get this idea that as we get older, we should just be able to do these things, right? And for some of us, it doesn't work as well as for others. Maybe we struggle with memory, maybe we struggle with vision, maybe we struggle with fine motor skills. And you almost kind of get this idea of you're going to power through, right? You can just do it. You don't need all these, especially these low tech things. And as we begin to realize that they are all assistive technology and they can help us, and there's no problem in using them. It's a resource, it's a tool, can really make it easier for people to use those. In addition to that, there are some mid-tech and high-tech tools, things like using calculators, right? For those of us of a certain age, remember our math teachers telling us, you need to learn long division because you're not going to always have a calculator in your back pocket. We've learned now we kind of do, right? They're on our phone. Things like smart boards and FM systems, FM systems for audio, using iPads and the accessibility features in them. Communication devices, so devices where a user can push a button or trigger a button in another manner and it speaks for them. Scanning pens, so these are pens that can scan over text to have them read aloud. And things like switch activated devices for individuals with low mobility who want to be able to control their environment. Using switches to trigger things to happen can be a great assistive technology. So we kind of have this interesting line that's happened, and I like taking just a minute to talk about the difference between assistive technology and inclusive technology, because this line is changing very frequently. So assistive technology we defined as any item that helps somebody with a disability do the things that they need to do. Inclusive technology is just something that's there all the time. What's interesting is over the years, oftentimes we start seeing things that start as assistive technology eventually become available for everyone. So the first picture here is a picture of a curb cut on a sidewalk. So that's the little spot that kind of goes lower so that a wheelchair can get up onto the sidewalk. Originally, those were made for wheelchairs to be able to get up on to the sidewalk. However, most of us, when we're walking down the street, will intuitively use those curb cuts over stepping over the curb. It decreases the likelihood of tripping. If we have a bicycle or a, baby stroller or a wagon, we use those curb cuts to be able to get on and off the sidewalk. There is the push button that is used to open a closed door, right? So it's usually has a picture of a wheelchair on it. And when you push that, the door automatically opens. Again, those were initially put in place for users with wheelchairs to be able to get into and out of buildings. However, there's many of us, I would guess most people at one point or another, that have used that button to be able to open the door when our hands are full. The third picture is the revolving door getting into and out of stores. Again, that was meant for individuals with disabilities to be able to get into and out of the doors without the door being held open by that push button. But again, most of us, when given an option between that rotating door and the door right next to it that you push open, most of us will choose that rotating door. And the last picture on this page is an image of the screen off of an iPhone or iPad with the words, "Hey Siri." I'm going to try to whisper that and not trigger every device here sitting in my office or any of yours. I apologize if I just made any of them start talking to you. But the ability to speak to a device, to trigger it, to do something for you, originally was assistive technology, right? Triggering a device with your voice was originally created for users who were unable to use their motor skills to do those things, right? Now, over time, that's become a very mainstream thing. Most people have used that at some point or another, whether it's Google or Alexa or Siri. I'm trying to talk quietly. Those devices now are very mainstream. Some other examples of this would be using speech to text to type a message. Originally, that was used for people who were unable to type manually or spelling for whatever reason. They were unable to put their words in a traditional manner. And speech to text was a way to do that. Originally, I think it was dragon dictation was one of the biggest original ones of that. There was probably one before that, but that was kind of the biggest original. And now, I don't know if I could probably find more than a handful of people who haven't at some point used their voice either to write a message respond to a text message, ask their device a question. It's just become a very normal thing. So that being said, another couple of things that have become normal, okay, right, or mainstream, are the uses of devices like Chromebooks and iPads. So if you are a Chromebook user or an iPad user, I want to go over some of the different features in those devices that could potentially help you or someone that you work with. Now, don't feel like you need to write down a lot of notes. Again, I have the link here for you, and Julia will be sending out, I'm sure, the handouts as well with these directions. Okay, so don't feel like you need to write them down. Again, it's just important to know that it's there. So built into a Chromebook, without needing to add anything or do anything else fancy, there are a lot of accessibility features built right in. So a Chromebook, when you turn, now you have to turn the settings on, and there's a little side here that tells you how to locate those features. But a Chromebook has the availability to use text to speech, meaning your Chromebook will read all of the text on a page out to you. It will read the screen, it will read the menus, it will read all of those things for you. A Chromebook also has some display settings. You can turn on features for high contrast to make it easier to see. You can change the resolution of the screen to make it sharper. You can make all of the text on your Chromebook automatically larger or smaller. And you can also turn on a feature to magnify, where it will magnify pieces of the screen for you as necessary. Again, these are without anything extra. The Chromebook will just do it. For keyboard controls, you can actually put an on-screen keyboard onto the computer. So if that's easier for your motor control, you can turn on word prediction. So kind of like when you're entering a text message and your phone's always kind of guessing what your next word might be or what word you're trying to spell. A Chromebook will automatically do that for you any place that you're writing. And also it has built-in voice typing. So if you are typing something onto a website or onto a document, you can use your voice to do that. And then Chromebooks go as far even as giving you some additional mouse control. So if fine motor is a difficulty, you can have auto clicking, whereas if you don't move the mouse for so long, it'll automatically click for you. You can highlight your cursor, so it's easier to see where your cursor is on the screen. And you can also change your cursor size. So you can make that little arrow that you move around on the screen much larger, so it's easier to see where you're at. Now, these are also always being updated. So it's important to know where to find them. So on a Chromebook, you're going to go to the bottom on the right of your Chromebook where it has the time, and you're going to click on it. It's going to let you go into the settings menu. They usually bury accessibility kind of under the advanced sessions. Or advanced sections. So when you click on advanced, there'll be an option for manage accessibility features. As Chrome adds more features to it, you will see additional accessibility features here. So if you are, someone or work with someone who struggles with vision or fine motor or writing, it's important every once in a while to just kind of check out that accessibility section to see what might extra have shown up there. But just know that you can adapt that Chromebook to kind of make it easier for you to use. Now, in addition to Chromebooks, if you are an iPad user, okay, iPads and iOS as a whole, so this is iPads, some of these are also on iPhones, the accessibility features have become a little easier to find. If you go into settings, there's a button for accessibility right there. So I give Apple a lot of credit. They really have moved the accessibility settings to an area that's much easier. But some of the things that you can adjust on an iPad and or an iPhone, for vision, there is VoiceOver, which will read everything on a page out loud to you. You can zoom in on two different things on the page. It has a built-in magnifier app that will allow you to magnify anything around you. It basically is a really great high-powered digital magnifying glass. You can change your text size and your display size. You can adjust how the motion works on videos. You can have content spoken out loud to you. And you can turn on audio descriptions for videos. For physical and motor, you can adjust it for how your touch works. You can use Face ID, obviously, so that it will recognize who you are instead of putting in passwords. You can use switches to control your environment. You can use your voice to control an iPad. That one's actually really fun. You can use your iPad as a remote control, and you can adjust the keyboards. For individuals who struggle with hearing, you can pair iPads to hearing devices. You can change the audio settings on it, add closed captioning, and also can use different features to add background noise. I think that's a really cool new feature to it, is you can actually turn on a variety of different background noises like wind and rain and different things for people who struggle with the noises going on around you. You can actually kind of put in some of those background ambient noises without having to go find like a YouTube video or anything to play for it. And then, of course, we have Siri, and then something called guided access, which allows you to set up an iPad so that it will only stay in certain apps without leaving those. It will make it, you can set it so that you can't use certain buttons on it. For users who are struggling with fine motor skills, sometimes it's really handy to kind of make areas of the iPad screen untouchable so that if you accidentally touch them, you don't, leave the app you want to be in. And guided access will allow you to do that. Now, again, I do know that I'm going over those features really quickly. Each of these, like iPad accessibility, in a couple of weeks, I'm actually doing a 3-hour training on this. So we're not going to go into all of the details. Again, I just want you to know that it's possible. And I do see a couple of questions coming in the chat. I will get to those. I want to go through a few of these things here yet. And then in just a couple of minutes, I will answer those questions for you. So some quick wins. If you struggle with time management or you know of someone who does, I've left some tools here for iPad and for Chrome. So the idea of using things like built-in timers. There's an app here called Daily Decision Wheel that you can put all of your tasks onto a wheel and spin it and pick whatever it is that comes up to do next. Forest is an app that can help you with focus. On Chrome, there's an extension that will help you stay on the site that you're on and not get distracted by other websites. Using things like Google Calendar and movement reminders. For memory, using things like cameras. Use your iPhone or your iPad camera to take pictures of things. There's also a built-in reminder app. There's also a paid app that allows you to create visual schedules. For Chrome, again, take advantage of to-do lists, right? There are tons of them built into Calendar and Gmail and other places. And if you are using the Chrome browser, there's an extension called Momentum that does help you keep track of what time of day it is, your to-do lists, and your websites kind of all in one. For reading and writing, again, on iPhone and iPad, using and taking advantage of that text-to-speech, using the handwriting recognition in the Notes app, using speech-to-text. And in Chrome, if you are looking at ways to help support reading and writing, 2 great additions are Read and Write for Google Chrome and Cami. Cami works more with PDFs. Google Chrome works more with Google Docs and slides and websites, but it allows supports for reading and writing and highlighting, all of those things that can help us be better readers and writers in a digital world. With that being said, also don't forget the low-tech supports, things like Post-it notes, lists, adaptive pens and pencils, different types of scissors or kitchen cutting tools, right? If you struggle with motor skills, there's lots of things out there. And even things like paperweights that hold your paper where you need it to be when you're trying to write. Now, my contact information is here, and while that's up, I am going to look back real quick at this list because we do only have about 7 minutes, and I want to look at the list or the questions that are in chat. So the first one said, when a child has an issue with writing, so the hands start to ache, what assistive technology can we get to help? Required to write reports in 2nd grade, have to be at least a paragraph of information, starts hurting in about 3 sentences. Yes. So for things like writing, I would question if it needs to be handwritten or if it can be typed or digitally. For most students, I would advocate if, the physical act of writing is difficult, maybe, continue to do a little bit of that just for the, muscle memory and, practice of writing. But I would suggest moving that to digital, either word processing with a keyboard of some form, or using speech to text or predictive text to do that. We don't want a student, especially at that age, to end up where they're not sharing their ideas and moving forward in writing because it hurts, right? That's silly. Nobody wants to do something that's going to hurt them. So I would look at some of those digital options, making that either, typing or speech to text to be able to put that in anytime the writing is maybe more than 1 or 2 sentences. Sometimes you can specify that and say, anytime writing is longer than 2 sentences or 1 sentence, then the student can use, these digital tools. If keyboarding becomes an issue with fine motor, again, speech to text can help. And there are a variety of different types of keyboards that can be used that kind of are turned at different angles. So if you want like specific suggestions, definitely you can email me. If you're looking for like a specific type of keyboard or thing like that, I'd be happy to look. Otherwise, talk to an occupational therapist. If there's one working with a student, they oftentimes have really good advice on that. Somebody said, thanks for the reminder about the magnifier on iPhone. It's super great. What can we use as assistive technology for autistic spectrum disorder child not attracted to phones, videos? So I'm guessing you're looking for, Annette, you and I should maybe talk about this student a little bit. I'm sorry. I just saw that she has to write. We've been fighting all year. They say she needs to write. I'm going to say that you probably need to talk to, I'm guessing, maybe an IEP team if the child has an IEP. I would suggest maybe bringing this up at an IEP meeting, and then potentially even asking for an assistive technology evaluation. And that can be through an occupational therapist, or if they have anybody there with understanding of assistive technology, to look into that a little bit more. So again, I'm guessing the question that you're looking for assistive technology for a student on the autism spectrum, that you don't want it to be photos, videos, or iPads. I'm not 100% sure that I understand the question. I'm not sure if you're asking me what you can use that does use those things or that does not use those things.
Most.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
I certainly can.
Yeah. Actually, he's not attracting at all to the televisions, videos, photos. He's not all of these things not attract him at all. So
Okay.
so what we can use as attractive technology in order to increase his focus and attract him to do something